So I think for me, like growing up, I really valued independence, and I really valued, it was, for me, it wasn't necessarily about like security and settling down. I was a real kind of feminist, I suppose. And um, so I think the reason why I'm sort of talking all about that is because I've kind of come to a realization sort of late that, for a big part of maybe my 20s and my 30s, when I was single, I would be thinking, what's wrong with me? Why amn't I finding other people when all my friends are settling down and on all of that? And I think actually I've realized lately that, stemming from my childhood, the idea of settling down was not something that I valued. The idea of being in a secure, safe relationship where you're kind of, quote unquote, sort of tied down, actually, was at odds with my values of freedom and independence, and being your own woman in the world. And I know that you can be both, but I think it's only that kind of self-realization that I've had of late that kind of has given me kind of the grace and the permission to say, well, there was nothing wrong with me. And I think I could have been in many, many relationships many times over. I think men who were falling in love with me, I would reject them because I would be like, no, no, that's okay. Don't come too close. Um, but if men were not interested in me, I loved the chase of that. And I loved kind of like the opportunity to kind of win them over. And then I'd win them over, and then I'd be like, no, no. So I don't know, it's a complicated question to answer. But I think it really stems from my values. And I think where I am now in terms of being single and being happy being single, I a few years ago, I really let go of that search for a relationship.
Mm.
I had a dating column in a magazine here in Ireland for 2 years with Stellar magazine. I had a quite a successful blog called swiperight.blog, where I would chronicle my dating stories, and people would think it was all hilarious. So I was very much like a single girl on the town, talking about dating and Tinder when Tinder was just out. But a few years ago, I kind of let go of all of that, and I let go of that innate desire to like be in a relationship. And I'm really happy where I am now, that, I'm happy to welcome, like you talk about, happy to welcome something in, if it comes along, but it's not something that I'm actively looking for at the moment.
Thanks for that, Ariana. It's so interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, a lot of what you said resonates with me so much. But one thing in particular is the fact that, isn't it interesting how it's kind of ironic that actually the older we get, the more we sort of have that realization that actually, like you say, being in a relationship doesn't necessarily align with your or my values.
Yeah.
And I find it so interesting because, you'd be forgiven, or people would be forgiven, for thinking that the older you get, particularly as a woman, that the more kind of pressure you feel to, like, oh my God, I've got to find a boyfriend, I've got to settle down, da, 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 da. But actually, it's interesting that for both you and I, as we've got older, we've actually come into a much more comfortable, secure situation, and feeling on our own. So I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love what you say about that.